Continuing NFC West Rivals Week here. Do the San Francisco 49ers have the best skill position groups in the NFL? It's hotly contested on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and not Eric Crocker. It is Mr. Nicholas Winkler on a Winky Wednesday episode here. Croc is on the road. He is traveling, so it is me and our weekly Wednesday guest, Mr. Nicholas Winkler, my former podcast co-host, my former radio colleague, and now also known as Voice of the Fan, joins us weekly here on the podcast. And so I'm going to lean on Wink for his rankings of these position groups on offense in the NFC West as we continue on through Rivals Week here. And stay tuned for tomorrow. We've got a very special guest from the Locked On Cardinals podcast. Alex Clancy is going to help me break down the new look Arizona Cardinals, and I think the most up-and-coming team potentially in this division as we finish up this week of Rivals. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, and all you got to do right now is go to FanDuel.com, and new customers get $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. And now let's properly bring on today's guest.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Can't believe it. Wow.
Wink, what's happening, my man? Do the 49ers have the best group of skill guys in the NFC West? They had for a long time, and they've still got some powerhouse guys. So I'm interested to see how you rank these. And of course, as always, you got to start with the signal callers and the quarterbacks, right? So take us through this. How did you see these quarterbacks in the NFC West? We obviously know who's playing quarterback for the 49ers. It's Brock Purdy. You got Matthew Stafford over there in Los Angeles, Kyler Murray, vertically challenged, but still a very talented guy. Maybe not quite the guy they hoped he would be, but still no chump over there in Arizona. And then you got Sam Darnold, the newcomer, back again. So I guess he's not a newcomer to the division because he's been here for a short time, for a year at the 49ers. Sam Darnold now the starter for the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't know how much depth will play into this for us in some of these positions, but obviously with quarterback, it's all about the starters. How do you see this in the NFC West, Wink?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it from multiple areas, right? You could look at it from how do these guys rank with just their stats, right? How do these guys, is the best quarterback because he has the best running back and wide receiver and tight end? So there's a lot of different ways you can really break this thing down. And for me, it was a tough one. This was one of the tougher categories for me to rank because as a 49er fan, it's hard to not just be like, oh, we're number one in everything. We're just number one. No problem. But I can't do that. I try to be objective. I try to stand back and look at it, from everyone's point of view. So let's go bottom to top then, right? So number 4 for me is Kyler Murray. Still, he's a year removed from that major injury, so maybe he'll come back and look like the Kyler Murray that we used to know before the injury, but I'm not banking on it too much. So to me, he's 4th. Then I'm going Sam Darnold. Welcome back to the division, Sam Darnold. They took away your biggest weapon in DK Metcalf. Good luck to you. To number 2 is where I put Brock Purdy. I love Brock Purdy. I love what Brock Purdy does. Brock Purdy's the man. But Matt Stafford is the better quarterback. It's hard for me to argue against that. I mean, maybe the age will finally catch up with it. Maybe it'll finally be like, okay, it's Matt Stafford's time to go. But I mean, Stafford's got a championship. That to me puts you at the top of the list. And so it's tough. I know people are gonna be like, nah, it's Purdy, but it was close. 1 and 2 were close.
So we didn't share our notes before we did this podcast, but and I'm a little bit frustrated right now because I have the same exact 4 rankings, and I thought it was going to be a hot take to have Sam Darnold ahead of Kyler Murray. I thought that would actually be a hotter take than having Stafford ahead of Brock Purdy. And I think Stafford, is probably the best quarterback potentially even in the NFC too. So not just the NFC West. Now, here's the thing with Stafford, and you nailed it. He's a stub toe on the coffee table away from not having a career anymore and hanging it up, and the Rams have been kind of looking around and shopping for other potential opportunities and maybe wanting to move on from Matthew Stafford as good as he is because of his advanced age. He's had arm problems. So, that could happen. And all of a sudden, instantly, he's not the best quarterback in the division anymore. But right now, He still is. It's Matthew Stafford 1. I think it's Brock Purdy 2. And I think it's pretty close with Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray. I've just been kind of disappointed with Kyler Murray. I think that it's possible that the Arizona Cardinals after 2025 are like, we just seen so much of the same, and almost in the way that, not that we don't dislike the guy, but kind of like with the Seattle Seahawks is like, yeah, let's just change it and see if something different happens, because it's kind of been the same result a lot of the times for Kyler Murray. And Sam Darnold, there's still a little something there. Now, Sam Darnold could easily become the 4th best quarterback in this division, but it wouldn't be insane for him to be the 2nd best either, I don't think.
I mean, you look at the numbers from last year, and Sam Darnold beat all 4 of these guys, right? If you're just looking at stats, he had the best stats of anybody last year for the Vikings, and he
better record.
Better record, better yards, better touchdown to interception ratio. Like, he had everything going for him last year. Now he's in a different team, less playmakers than he had. He doesn't have Justin Jefferson anymore, right? So will that affect him going forward? I think you nailed it. I think 3 and 4 are really close, and I think 1 and 2 are pretty close, but I think there's a pretty big gap there between 2 and 3.
Just to go a little bit deeper into these depth charts and talk about depth and talk about backups, because we've only talked about starters with the quarterbacks here. In Arizona, backing up Kyler Murray is Jacoby Brissett and Clayton Tunes, the number 3. In Seattle, Croc and I talked a lot about the Seattle Seahawks and how excited we were to see what the development might look like from their rookie draft pick. And obviously he might be, I don't know if he's the number 2 or the number 3 in Seattle going into this year. You know, it's hard for a rookie just to be ready to be one play away from being thrust into being a starting quarterback. But Jalen Milroe's got a ton of talent. But Drew Lock's the veteran, so it might be Drew Lock 2, Jalen Milroe 3. But I kind of like that 2-3 situation with the 49ers. They brought in Mac Jones. I know he's still got a lot of people who feel a certain way from the 2021 draft about Mac Jones, but potentially the best backup, I don't know, in the division. And then it's Jimmy G, right? With Matthew Stafford over there in LA. If there was a tiebreaker, do you like one of the groups of backups? And by the way, I love the Maple Missile for the 49ers as well. I don't know if he's ever going to be active to be a number 2 or number 3 this year, but Curtis Rourke, I want to throw his name in there if we're talking about number 3s. And obviously they have an undrafted rookie from last year, and I still don't know what to expect there. But I don't think it weighs heavily in this discussion about the backup quarterbacks if there were some injuries. Like, let's say all 4 of the starters get hurt in this division, who's got a better backup? And if, say, Darnold, Kyler Murray was tied for you, would Milroe, Drew Lock do anything to strengthen the argument for Seattle versus Arizona?
No, I think everything would stay the same. I mean, although I believe that San Francisco probably has the best backup in Mac Jones. I've been a Mac Jones guy. I think he's a perfect fit for the Kyle Shanahan scheme. I really do. I hope we never see him. I hope he doesn't touch the football, or he comes in late in a couple of games when the 49ers have a huge lead.
Like, look
hands off a couple times. Yeah.
Look awesome in the preseason.
Yeah.
But then Brock is great. And then maybe you sit and have an awesome week 17 when the 49ers are gearing up for a week 1 playoff matchup, or a week 1, like, something like that. And he plays so well that someone wants to come knock in and trade for him in the offseason. That's the ideal Mac Jones experience in 2025.
That's great. And I'm a Jimmy G guy, always been a Jimmy G guy, love Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think he might be spent. Like, I think that we got the best out of Jimmy Garoppolo, and he went to Las Vegas and took all their money. Now I think he's just taking the Rams' money as well. So I love Jimmy G, but yeah, I think that if we're for ranking backups, then I think it goes San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, Arizona in that order.
Don't hate on Jacoby Brissett, though. I like Jacoby Brissett, and it's not crazy to think he might be this second, even the best backup in the division too. So kind of pretty even with the backups, to be honest with you, across the board in the West. So it doesn't change things. We're in lockstep here, Wink. It's Rams, Niners, Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals for ranking quarterbacks in the NFC West. And of course, that could get all turned on its head, and it probably will be once we see games start to happen here in 2025, because we know things do not stay the same in the NFL. Running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Who's got the best group amongst those offensive skill guys in the NFC West? Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Summertime, that means baseball every day, all summer long. I love it. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether It's all about baseball under the lights for you. Maybe golf on the green. I like to wager while I'm playing and bet on myself sometimes when it comes to golf. But obviously, there's a lot of golf on television, a lot of professional golf, a high stakes action in soccer as well. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. I haven't seen the Peacock versus Winkler lines on FanDuel yet for golf, but hopefully we can get that going as well, and people can play along at home. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And come on, we've used FanDuel. I've used FanDuel to track your favorite matchups. App keeps it fresh. New daily promotions all the time to keep it fun and interesting. And I love the live in-game parlays as well. Even if you miss first pitch, there's ways to play throughout the game. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And of course, you can still bet on NFL football. Weekly lines are already up. Bet on the San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl and more. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Running backs week. This one's got to go to the 49ers, right? As long as Christian McCaffrey's healthy. He wasn't last year. You can't just look at the numbers last year to figure this one out. And how did you see the running back rankings here for the NFC West?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at this, I'm just assuming everybody's going to be healthy, right? Everybody's going to play, the majority of the season, and the best running backs are going to win. Because you really look around the division, and pretty much everybody's got some sort of injury-prone running back, in their running back stable. So, of course, with Christian McCaffrey, you have him on your football team. You're going to have the best running backs in your division, maybe in the conference, maybe in the entire NFL. I mean, when Christian McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey, there's nobody better. So yeah, they sit atop the division. It got tough after that for me. I mean, you look at Seattle with Kenneth Walker, and then you got Kyren Williams in Los Angeles. Even James Conner in Arizona has had a fantastic last couple of seasons. I mean, he's been one of those workhorse backs that just kind of gets overlooked because Arizona's not that good, but you look at the numbers and the guy really puts it up. So it was tough for me to rank this one, but I did go San Francisco 1, and I went with Seattle 2 because I like the combination of Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. Like, Charbonnet is such a good change of back, and when he's gotten his chance to be the number 1 in Seattle, he's been phenomenal. So I really like Seattle coming in there 2. 3, it's the Rams. It's Kyren Williams, and because look at his numbers. Look at when they control the ball. When Los Angeles wins football games, it's because they're giving the ball to Kyren Williams 25 times in the game, and he doesn't put up a huge number of yards per carry, but his touchdown numbers are fantastic, and he really helps the Rams with time of possession. And that's huge. And of course, then James Conner would come in 4th. And that was tough for me. 3 and 4, I could easily swap those two.
It's a tough one for me. And I don't want to talk out both sides of my mouth, but I think I'm about to wink. Because I'm not going to knock the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey and his injury history, but I am going to knock Seattle because I just don't trust the group necessarily. I think Seattle's got solid depth, but Kenneth Walker hasn't been able to prove it in the NFL like Christian McCaffrey has. And he's not a dual threat guy like Christian McCaffrey is. And so Seattle's actually 4th for me, even though I think Kenneth Walker is a really good pure runner. I mean, so is James Conner, and so is Kyren Williams. So you got to show it. And he just hasn't been on the field enough. And I don't know if he still has that juice with some of the injuries he's had. And they're all just, it's a solid group. And there's some depth there with that Seattle running back group. But I would rather play the Seattle running backs than the other running backs in the division. I like Kyren Williams a lot. The Rams love him. I mean, his yards per carry isn't amazing. They just lean on him a lot too. Yeah. And I think you said it about James Conner getting slept on. Trey Benson is the young backup. And I don't know if you want to count Kyler Murray. He was their second leading rusher last year, 500 rushing yards. But I like James Conner a lot, man. And he deserves some kudos here. So mine is 49ers 1, Cardinals 2, Rams 3, Seattle 4. But with McCaffrey, you got to put Niners 1. They got some solid depth too with Garendo and the rookies that I think will be a fun group to watch. And I think it's really tight with the other 3 groups.
It is. You could switch those around. I mean, with Kyren Williams too, I know they really like him, but let's not forget towards the end of the year, he started fumbling, and he fumbled in that playoff game that really cost them. So you got to think, how is that going to transition to this year? Maybe he forgets about it. He comes back. He's the guy that they give the ball to 25 times, or maybe they tend to move away from that, right? And again, James Conner. I mean, I could easily do 2, 3, 4 in any order. Because if Kenneth Walker is healthy, I think he's better than Kyren Williams. I think he's better than James Conner, but he hasn't proven that he can stay healthy. And I think the best backup out of all these guys is Charbonnet. I really think that when he's had a chance to shine, he's been amazing. He might even take over that number 1 role there in Seattle.
And again, like I get the argument for Seattle too, because I like the depth, and Kenneth Walker when he's healthy, and I think out of college he was one of the better pure runners around. But passing game and the injuries, it's like, come on, man, let's see it. And I still haven't seen what I wanted to see out of him in that group. Let's go tight ends next. And obviously George Kittle, Luke Farrell, now the backup for George Kittle in San Francisco. There's some big time tight ends in this division, right? And in fact, the leading receiver for the Arizona Cardinals is their tight end, Trey McBride, 1,146 yards last year on 111 receptions. Only 2 touchdowns, though, for Trey McBride. And so, again, we're separating. This isn't pass catchers. We're separating wide receivers, tight ends, running backs here. So this is just the tight end groups for these teams. The Los Angeles Rams, kind of a head-scratcher move for me. The Rams tight ends are kind of like the Seattle Seahawks running backs to me, where it's like, okay, it's a deep group. They got a lot of guys, but is there the guy? And I think they kind of overdrafted Terrence Ferguson in the draft as a rookie, but clearly they love him. Higbee can't stay healthy there. That's just a weird and kind of interesting group there. And then you have the Seattle Seahawks tight ends, which is Noah Fant, another second-round rookie, and Elijah Arroyo, who's really big and athletic, AJ Bomber, Eric Saubert. How do you rank the tight end groups in the NFC West?
I mean, if we're just looking at pure tight ends, right? We're just looking at a guy that affects the ball when he's running, when he's receiving, or when he's blocking, right? So yards after catch, knocking guys off the ball, pure 100%. You know who I
feel like I know where you're going with this.
You know who I think the best tight end in all of football is, because he checks all those boxes. He is the man. It's George Kittle. I mean, I just don't think you can pick a better tight end to be on your football team for that everything he brings. And again, I've said it before, I feel like he leads the locker room. I feel like he's the main guy in the locker room. I feel like they follow his lead. He's talking to the offense. He's talking to the defense. He's picking everybody up. He's always upbeat. He's always, he's that guy. You want that guy on your team? George Kittle is that guy. Now, if we're talking fantasy football, that could be a little bit different. That would be my number 2 would be my number 1 when it comes to drafting fantasy football, and that's Trey McBride. But for everything you just said,
he's got the PPR bump because he gets those low, short, the forced completions that George Kittle. Like, imagine George Kittle with 147 targets.
Could you imagine what kind of numbers he would put up? I mean, Kyle, you listening? Because George Kittle can put up Trey McBride numbers if you start throwing him the football a little bit more. But I mean, Trey McBride, from a fantasy standpoint, I mean, he's got Travis Kelce numbers. Like, they're ridiculous. They just throw it to him. He is the focal point of that offense. I think even more so than James Conner. I think if you really look at that offense and when it's clicking, it's when Trey McBride's getting, 10 targets a game. And they try to get him the ball as much as possible because he's one of their best playmakers. And I still would, from a football standpoint, bring him in number 2 behind George Kittle, because George Kittle's the man. And then number 3 for me, I think, is because of what you said, because of the fact that the Rams can't ever get a good tight end in that offense. I don't know what it is, but every year they're like, oh, this is going to be Higbee's year. Like, here we go. No, it's not. It's not going to be. They draft a young guy. We'll see what he can do. But I really like Noah Fant. I think he's a great receiver when it comes to being a tight end. I really liked what he did in Denver. And for me, if they could find something there in Seattle, I know that Sam Darnold really liked throwing to his tight ends. So that could be really big for them. So I would put the Seattle crew in there 3rd, and then the Rams coming in 4th.
49ers, Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams.
Yep,
exactly. That's how I have it as well at tight end. And again, even for fantasy purposes, it's not yards and touchdowns. It's just those receptions. Just those
In that
receptions.
PPR league, you got to get Trey. Trey McBride's like a first or second round pick in a PPR league just because of the difference that he gives you in that positional advantage for whoever you're playing each and every week. Like, he's a stud.
Upheaval at the wide receiver position all throughout the division. Interesting group of pass catchers, wide receivers. How do they rank? Next. All right, Wink. We are looking at the wide receiver groups of the NFC West now, and the 49ers no longer have Deebo Samuel, the wide receiver, the wide back on the team anymore. So it's time for Ricky Pearsall to step up. I think we have to have a conversation of how much of Brandon Aiyuk do we count here, right? Jauan Jennings, very good player, very underrated around the NFL. 49ers have another number of players. Demarcus Robinson, the veteran, Cowing, Watkins, the rookie. So some young players vying for some spots as well. You look at the Arizona Cardinals roster of wide receivers, and year 2 could be a massive breakout year for Marvin Harrison Jr. He had 62 catches for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns, which is pretty quiet for what people expected him to do right out of the gate last year. Michael Wilson, who's I believe a day 2 pick the year before, is still hanging around. The human Dortch, Greg Dortch in Arizona as well. The Seattle Seahawks said goodbye, traded away DK Metcalf, brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling as the deep threat, along with 2 later round rookies and Torrey Horton and Ricky White. Brought in Cooper Kupp from the division. So Cooper Kupp goes from the Rams to the Seahawks, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is the target hog receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. And then the biggest move of the offseason at wide receiver was by the Los Angeles Rams. And it's a team that makes big moves. And they released Cooper Kupp. He ends up staying in the division. And then the Rams add Devontae Adams, future Hall of Famer, to go with their new young star receiver in Puka Nacua. So a really interesting group of wide receivers here. I think you could look at this a lot of different ways. How do you see it, Wink? And I guess let's start with the conversation about Brandon Aiyuk. What are we counting for Brandon Aiyuk? Half a season?
And even so, how much of that season is going to be him at 100%, right? Any of it? Will this be him coming back, week 6, week 7, something like that? And he's not Brandon Aiyuk. He's still trying to figure it out. With an injury like this, you're going to be slowed a little bit, right, when you come back.
Well, and he was slow to start last year. It didn't really come on for him. So by the time he comes back, let's say it's November, it'll be nearly 2 calendar years since we've seen a, all-pro version of Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I'd love it. I'd love it if he came back and you're like, oh, that's the Aiyuk we gave $120 million to. But you can't bank on that as a 49er fan or as a football fan. And if you're drafting in fantasy, I don't know. I'm not going to have Brandon Aiyuk on my team in fantasy this year just because for what he's going to go for, I don't think you're going to get that kind of production. You might towards the end of the year. I'm hoping that when he comes back, maybe a week or 2, it's like, okay, he's starting to get his feet under him. You don't think maybe he's out there 40% of passes. Maybe he's out there 50%. They slowly kind of ramp him up. And maybe towards the end of the season, we really start to see that guy. But I'm not banking on it. I just don't think you can. I wish you could, but there's no way you could put San Francisco as number 1 in the division for wide receivers because of the question marks surrounding Brandon Aiyuk.
And when you start to look at this, and we've already done, and again, if you're just tuning in here, tomorrow I'll be talking with Alex Clancy about the 2025 Arizona Cardinals and how they stack up with the 49ers. But Croc and I had already done the Rams and the Seahawks earlier this week. And when you look at it this way, you think, okay, the Rams have the best quarterback in the division, probably have the best wide receivers in the division. If it's Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. And I think you have to rank them that way. Okay. Be ready to cover 49ers. And let's get after Matthew Stafford. And let's make him bump his toe on the coffee table, right? Because that's going to be huge for the 49ers when they play the Rams this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at who the best receiver in the division is right now, it's probably Puka Nacua. I mean, the way this guy is out there catching footballs the first 2 years of his career, it's unprecedented. There's nobody that's been close to this guy. Yeah, he didn't get a ton of touchdowns either years, but it's a lot like Trey McBride, right? The guy's going to get 160 targets and maybe more. And then you bring in Devontae Adams, a guy that you have to pay attention to. Yeah, he's slowed a little bit, but he's still Devontae Adams. Like, I still think he's going to get some pretty great numbers having the whole offseason in this scheme and having a guy like Stafford throwing to him like that to me is going to be a dangerous combination. It worries me. That's the biggest thing that keeps me up at night right now. If you're talking about division rivals, what the Rams have right now in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, that's going to be tough for anyone to cover. And we got to do it twice a year. Like that's going to be rough.
I think this is the toughest position rankings. I think you got to go Rams 1. And I think it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, right. You can't just slot the Niners in there at 2. Like you could if Aiyuk was coming into the season healthy, feeling good. Like, yeah, I could easily put them in at 2, but he's not.
Yeah, but the same question though with the Seattle Seahawks, they lost DK Metcalf and they could say Metcalf, and Cooper Kupp it's cool. It's like you would think, okay, name value, all right, it's a 1-for-1 swap. You're good there, very different style of player, but same conversation as with Brandon Aiyuk. Now the injury isn't as immediately serious, but Cooper Kupp hasn't been able to be healthy either. So how many games are we going to count from him?
Right. So if we're just looking at who has the best wide receiver out of these 3 groups, like Marvin Harrison, probably not. Right. It's probably you can't count on Aiyuk.
More there. Like I wouldn't be shocked at all if we're like, okay, the Marvin Harrison's at least a top 3 wide receiver in the this year.
Sure, but right now he's not, right? I mean, especially we talked about fantasy, right? Where this guy was being drafted in the 2nd round of drafts like he did not put up those numbers at all. And maybe he'll take a big step in his 2nd year, but he didn't look great as a rookie in that offense. To me, I think the 2nd best receiver in the division right now is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Like that guy gets it done. And now you're going to pair him with a guy like Cooper Kupp, who, when healthy, is a ball hog. He's a guy that he's going to get 10 targets a game, right? You send Smith-Njigba, he can run all the routes. He seems like the guy right now in Seattle. He's the reason they were like, okay, Metcalf, you can go. This guy's going to slot in as our number 1 now. And I don't think they're going to skip a beat. I really think he is a stud. I think it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the year, Smith-Njigba is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. I really wouldn't be surprised by that. I think he's got the talent for it. I think he's going to be the focal point of this offense. So to me, I think you got to put Seattle as the number 2 wide receiving group.
I think that
you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it.
I don't think Jackson Smith-Njigba is that good. I don't think he's bad. I think he benefits from target share.
Which he's going to get.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's that good. I would take numerous guys in the division over him. I'd probably take Marvin. I was like, okay, you don't know what Marvin Harrison's career is going to look like. And Njigba showed you the statistical, ability to put those numbers up. I would take option B, like the mystery box of what Marvin Harrison could be
for this season or for long term. I mean, we're just talking right now, right?
I'd probably take it for this season or long term. Like right now, I'll take him. I think he's more talented. I think, yeah. But we'll see. And I think Njigba, the job that Njigba does, I think you could have another player run routes in the slot, get targeted a ton, and we'll put up the stats. I just think it's inflated. I think that's the word.
His number had 100 catches.
Inflated.
Like that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Again, how many catches could George Kittle have if he had those 175 targets? How many targets actually? I'm going to look it up. How many targets did Njigba have last year? I swear it was
137. I just looked it up.
Okay, not as many as I thought.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good share. You're making 100 catches on 137 targets. Like that's a pretty good number. And the reason I wouldn't go with Harrison Jr. is because McBride is the focal point of that offense, right? He's the number 1. Whereas I think Smith-Njigba will be the number 1 there in Seattle. So again, 2, 3, 4, it to me is kind of a coin flip when it comes to those. Like, I hope the 49ers come out on top. I hope Pearsall really takes a big step forward in the 2nd year. I hope we see the same kind of stuff out of Jauan Jennings that we saw last year. But to count on that, that's tough. That's tough to do.
Yeah, and it's like Arizona doesn't have a Cooper Kupp, even if he was banged up half the season, right? You're looking at Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, and Zay Jones. And so, yeah, you got to put Arizona last, I think. Even though Njigba, numbers inflated. McBride, numbers inflated. And San Francisco 3 then? I think that's it.
We say inflated. I mean, Smith-Njigba was playing alongside DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett last year. And is Darnold an upgrade from Geno Smith? I think maybe.
Defenses were worried about the other guys so much that it left him open. See.
Well,
it wasn't a target share thing.
Who are they worried about?
It's always been Metcalf isn't a high target share guy. He's a lower percentage.
He's a deep guy.
Right.
Dump it. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think you go 4 at the bottom with Arizona. I might go San Francisco 3 and then Seattle 2. And then obviously the Rams are 1.
Good wide receivers, though, like end of the year, they could all have really good groups.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. If some of these young guys really step up, they could be, the Rams could come back down to earth, right? I mean, because they got the old guy in Devontae Adams who, again, guys fall off at some point, right? Guys don't just keep playing forever at the top level. And if there's one guy in here that I think has the biggest chance to drop off, not due to health, but just due to being old, I think it would be him.
Play caller to end it. I know we didn't prepare for this, but let's see if you can get people mad at you if you don't put Kyle Shanahan number 1 in the division. We got Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Drew Petzing, who I think is really good in Arizona, and then Clint Kubiak is now with the Seattle Seahawks. They were one and done with Ryan Grubb. That wasn't working out, so they wanted a piece of that Shanahan system, and they got it now in Seattle with Sam Darnold, who worked with Sam Darnold in San Francisco. Clint Kubiak, the son of Gary. And I think you got to put Petzing 3 and Kubiak 4, right?
Because Kubiak hasn't done it, right?
Yeah, and it didn't go great for his season in where was he? New Orleans last year, right? So
good call. Wow.
Los Angeles, it actually started great. Didn't they put up like 40 points on somebody in week 1? Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? These guys weren't supposed to be good. And then you're like, oh, wait, they're not. They're not good. That's right.
Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers. Who's 1? Who's 2? McVay versus Shanahan. Go.
I want to put Shanahan there, but I mean, until he's wearing a ring, I got to put McVay number 1. It hurts me to say it. I'm going to get some hate for it, but just look at the numbers. Look at the facts.
At Bay Area Wink is where you can find him on Twitter. I won't give you his home address. That is Mr. Nicholas Winkler, the voice of the fan. It's locked in. You have no say. He has spoken for the 49ers fan base when we rank the NFC West position groups here. Wink, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me here on Rivals Week. You guys can subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts. We're talking audio podcasts and we're talking video on YouTube. And drop a comment if you don't want to talk to me or Wink directly on the socials. Drop a comment, subscribe on YouTube, and back tomorrow with Alex Clancy breaking down the Arizona Cardinals and how they stack up with the 49ers in 2025. Talk to you then right here. Locked on 49ers.
See you.
Can't believe it.